Thank you, and thanks everyone for joining us today. So let's talk about e-commerce. That's the title of our talk today. And we're going to start off talking about data. And then we're going to, from there, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and he's going to start talking about the platform. So one of the things that we want to consider is that when you're building a site where you're going to sell something, you need a way for a customer to come up to the site and look for what you're going to be selling. So the way to do that is through a catalog. Now, one of the things is that there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. There's some good ways and some bad ways. But the concept overall seems pretty simple, doesn't it? Just, put up a catalog on there, a customer comes up, enters their vehicle, and then boom, there's the data, and then they buy it from you, and everybody's happy. Well, it's not quite that simple. And over the years, I've spent with Epicor as a product manager for various e-commerce and for cataloging. I found that there are good ways and not so good ways to do things. So my part of the presentation is going to talk about the importance of the data that's on a website, and I'll point out some considerations to make that are kind of best practices for building a website using an electronic catalog. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to divide my talk up into 4 different areas. The first is the purpose. So what is the purpose of your website? Obviously to sell something, but what is it that you're selling and who is your audience? The second is the content. What do you sell and how do you want to sell it? Next is connectivity. Once you try to sell something to someone and you give them the information they need to buy it, well, then you need to point them to where to buy it. Do they buy it from you or do they buy it from someone else that represents you? And then finally, the technology. So is this something that you can do yourself? You can farm some of it out? Or is it a little bit of both? So we'll talk about those 4 things. So first of all, what is the purpose of your site? If you think about who's going to be using your site, you probably have 2 basic areas. One is business to consumer. So these are consumers that will be using your website. So when you think about a consumer website, it's open to the public, right? And whatever pricing you may have is also generalized pricing. You can't be specific with it unless you're running a sale or something like that. So it's open, generalized pricing. But if you're considering doing a business-to-business site, you have a lot more parameters to think about. Number one, you can set it up so that your customers have a specific user login. And when you do that, then you can start offering customer-specific pricing, right? Based on their buying habits, they may buy certain products from you more than others, and you want to give them a better discount to do that. Well, you can do all of that through specialized pricing by the customer. Second, you can offer them specific content offerings. For example, on a B2B site, let's say you build one for service dealers, right? So you can now offer them labor. Do you want to give that service dealer labor or the ability to go in there and start to do estimates? You might want to offer them service intervals or other type of content that you wouldn't offer to the general public. So you can start to get a little more custom on some of the things you do if you set up for your site for B2B. The next thing you need to consider about is regional. So where is your customers coming from? And where are they buying parts for? So if you're selling auto parts, are they in USA, Canada, and Mexico? You need to consider first the language. What kind of language you need to use? Well, if you're in Canada, you're going to need to use French. You're going to need to use English. Probably not so much in Spanish, but you can offer that if you want. But if you're in the United States, it's probably predominantly English. And then if you're selling to customers that are in Mexico, you need to make sure you cover it in Spanish. And I'm not just talking about the site itself, but I'm talking about the part terminology that you use, the part notes, and things like that. The second thing to think about is the content itself. And in Canada, there's different vehicles than there are in the United States, and the same thing goes for Mexico. So you need to make sure your coverage and your parts and everything will fit those vehicles that they may have that they're working on. So just some things to consider about your audience. Our next topic is content. So this is one of the key areas on getting your site to do what you want it to do and to fulfill all of your goals. First is coverage. Think about the product lines and the parts that you sell today. Is it only your products? So if you're a manufacturer, you say, well, I have a very limited line because these are the only things I sell. Well, that's fine. But if you're a distributor, for example, and you sell a full line of auto parts, the electronic catalog that you choose needs to be able to cover all those different particular lines and manufacturers that you carry. Does the e-catalog cover all the products? So you need to take a look at that. Vehicle coverage. Are you selling antique parts? So you need to think about how they're going to look up an antique vehicle in the catalog that you use. Or are they classic, or are they late model, or maybe a combination of both? All things to kind of consider when you're choosing which electronic catalog to use. Next, probably the most important piece of the data itself is the attributes on the part. A part number is great, but you need to be able to give them enough information so they feel comfortable with what they're purchasing. And especially, you know how complicated parts are today, you need to give them enough information to distinguish one part from another. So things like fitment notes, what does the manufacturer say about those fitment notes? You need to put all those up there and not hide them, because that's key to them deciding which part to purchase. And the key to preventing returns. That's the last thing you want with an online site, is a bunch of parts coming back. Next is part information. Things like specifications of the part. Things like repair information that the manufacturer provides, installation instructions that the manufacturer provides. All these different types of things you need to make available to those that are looking for your parts on your website. And finally, part images. I can't stress how important these are. I mean, think about your own purchasing habits. How many of you have purchased anything on the internet without a picture recently? Maybe in the old days, you're like, oh, looks right, I guess. But now you don't. People don't buy stuff without an image. But you'd be surprised at how many manufacturers don't provide images, or how many e-commerce websites don't have images for the parts that they're selling. That is key. And next, what about manufacturer diagrams? So if you're in a parts catalog today, if you're familiar with Moog, for example, Moog has some nice diagrams that help point out the location of the parts on there. Are you going to offer that as well? You want to do everything you can to make sure that they can find the right part that they need and get it sold. And then also you want to consider what kind of options you're going to give them for looking up parts. You're going to be able to go in and just enter a year, make, model, engine, or are you going to give them the ability to go and put in their VIN to find the right vehicle, or even put in their license plate? So it's some more considerations for doing that. Next is the content. There's a lot more content, just fitment information that you can make available. And the goal here is to make sure that they can have all the information they need to purchase from you and to feel comfortable for purchasing from you. So other content that can help do that is something like a buyer's guide. Once they find a part, allow them to maybe right-click on that and find out what other vehicles does that part fit. Second is a cross-reference. So for example, if they're coming to your website and they have a competitor's oil filter, or they have a part which maybe they don't even know what it is, but it has an OE number on there, will you allow them to enter that part number in as a cross-reference, and then you show them the right part? So that's some considerations you need. Second, do you also sell OE parts? So you want to have part of your fitment catalog also have OE parts in it to allow them to look at that. And finally, helping them find the right part in terms of a diagram. For example, this diagram shows not only the part that they're selecting, but all the surrounding parts that are part of the vehicle system that part belongs to. So again, helping them do that can also result in having upsales of parts. Maybe they didn't think, oh, you know what, I really need that other part as well, so I see it there, I'm going to select that. Now you've got another part that they weren't planning on buying in the first place. So having additional content can definitely help the cause as far as selling parts. Connectivity. There's a difference between pricing that you can see on an e-commerce site. One is pricing that was uploaded yesterday or every day or maybe 20, 30 minutes, an hour ago. It's not real-time pricing. It's basically pulled inventory snapshots. Another way to do it is to do real-time pricing and availability. That means at the point that the customer is doing that lookup and you present that part number to them, tell them exactly where it is in your supply chain. You can tell them that it's in your store, in one of your other stores. You can also tell them that it might be in a warehouse. And you can even, to some extent, tell them that part's not available for me in any of my stores, but I can special order it from you. And you could tell them, hey, the manufacturer has it, ready to be special ordered, buy it from me, and I'll get it for you. So real-time connectivity allows you to do all that. It also tells you where the part is in terms of that exact location. And the reason that's important is because if you tell them, I've got it, but then you don't tell them exactly where it is or how many are in stock, for example, and they drive to your place and they go say, oh, I've looked on the internet and it looks like you have the part and I've got it, and you don't have the part because the inventory was sold in between the time that you did your snapshot. Now you've got to send that person to maybe one of your other locations. But think about how many of your competitor stores they're going to pass on the way to your second location. And are they going to stop because it's closer, or are they going to keep going? So making sure you direct them to the right location with the best information possible is going to ensure that you get the sale and not someone else to do that. So some considerations there. You can also display your customer-specific pricing. So if the pricing is not stored on the website but actually stored on your ERP system, any changes that you make to that pricing will be immediately reflected on the website when they do a lookup. So it's important as well. And finally, with real-time connectivity, you can do instant ordering. So at the point that that customer puts that in his shopping cart, he goes through the transaction process, he pays for it, then that order can be sent directly to your location. And however you have it set up, a lot of stores will have just a pick ticket printed. You can pull it right off the printer, go grab the part, set it aside, or deliver it to them, or even ship it to them if you're doing mail. But you get it right away, and that part ensures that it's there at the time that the customer ordered it. And finally, let's talk about technology. There's two ways to do it here. There's do it yourself. That means you buy the technology or license the technology and software, and you host it in your own data center. So you buy the hardware, you host it. You have the IT maintenance team to take care of it, to do updates and things like that on it. And then you have a development team to help you develop to that. And also, if you think about the way the catalog works, is catalog can sometimes be a separate development process than the rest of the website. So you think about, okay, I need a development team that's familiar with doing catalog development and doing the user interface to that, as opposed to having something built for you. On the built for you side, there are a lot of electronic catalogs that are available as basically very simple REST or web services calls. So now you don't have to worry about setting that server up to do that. You don't have to worry about updating. It's all handled for you. You just need to worry about how you want the user interface. Or you can even go to a templated user interface, which basically gives you minimal amount of customization, but it has all the best practices in it, so your team doesn't have to worry about doing that. And then you build your rest of your site around that. And finally, if you're going to do any type of electronic cataloging with a custom user interface, you need to think about that, how you want to do that. What is the user flow like? If you look at all the different e-commerce sites that have electronic catalogs on today, there are basics things that are done, and then there's very different types of navigation. So you want to consider all those types of things today. So I know I went through this very fast. We don't have a short time to do it, but these are some of the things to think about when you're building it. If you have any other questions or anything, feel free. We'll be available after this, or you can come talk to us in our booth as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, all. Good morning. My name is Joe Williams. I'm from InteractOne in Cincinnati. And so a lot of what Scott talked about, your data really dictates your requirements for an e-commerce platform. So what we're going to go through, and my goal here is to discuss what's involved in selecting an e-commerce platform and then how to market it. So a few assumptions here first. We are looking at most manufacturers today are planning on building a B2C website within the next 2 years. It's the way the world's going with e-commerce. Most of those guys obviously just are going to want to start selling directly to consumers, but they also are looking for features to manage their B2B side as well. So some of the things Scott mentioned, like managing your jobber pricing, some of the convoluted pricing structures that we can create with our jobbers, as well as just account management capabilities, order routing, fulfillment, things like that. So to preface this, these are starter tips. This is a very high-level, quick overview. We could talk about some of these topics for weeks. This is kind of a beginner's crash course in marketing. So going back to data, the importance of data, you need to look at how you want your vehicle data to be incorporated into your site structure. Before selecting an e-commerce platform, you need to plan out 2 primary things, and one of those is your site structure, what your user interface is going to look like regarding site navigation. How your site's going to navigate, how that vehicle data is going to plug in, where the buyer guides or the schematics are going to display, how that's going to be incorporated, when users are going to be able to see that, when customers are going to be able to see that. And map out your structure so that it flows in a natural, organic way when customers come to it. The key to e-commerce success is really allowing the customer to find the product as quickly as possible. And when I say allowing, I mean not making them think. You're helping them along the process. They think they know what they want and they really don't. You need to guide them through that process. The second step is your UX UI. So we're looking at the fitment lookup here specifically to data because it's our Achilles heel here. How do you want that fitment lookup to function? Do you want it to be drop downs? Do you want it to be the tree structure like what Rock Auto has? Depending on your data requirements, that might dictate one way or the other to provide a better user experience. We call this UX UI, user experience, user interface. The interface is the site design that customers interact with. So pretty much you don't want to be this guy. You want to be able to ask the right questions dynamically based off of what category they're on. Before you ask customers questions they don't know the answers to. Used to work for a tonneau cover manufacturer and even just bed length. A lot of people didn't know their bed length. In this industry we have the DIYers that are a little bit more intelligent, but don't assume that your customer knows the same thing that the counter reps do. So there's a myriad of plug-and-play options available, e-commerce options available. We really look at we want to look at like 9 different items that you use or criteria that you use to evaluate your e-commerce platform before making a decision. The first one we look at is it search engine friendly? We'll come back to this in a few, but there's a lot of websites out there that has never seen the light of day because they weren't visible in search engines. So companies end up going bankrupt trying to pay for all of their traffic. So you want to find a platform that's search engine friendly. And second, can you afford the pricing model? Is it within your budget? Can you afford the total cost of ownership? Which we'll get into here in a few. Cost of ownership on mainstream platforms versus the niche platforms that cater to automotive data. Is it scalable? Is it something that can accept a higher amount of traffic without killing the site? There's a lot of platforms out there that if you do a holiday promotion or send an email, it'll kill the site because it can't stand that kind of bandwidth or that kind of usage. And maybe you're a local guy and you're not as concerned with scalability, but if you're doing a national marketing campaign, then it's definitely something you need to be aware of. And then is the native functionality enough to satisfy your needs and your wish list for the next 3 to 5 years? Typical e-commerce platforms, they have a lifespan of 3 to 5 years these days. People turn them over pretty quickly because technology changes. So whether you're migrating to another platform or you're just upgrading an older website, you don't want to get caught in the customization trap. You want to make sure that the plan that you created before selecting a site is thorough enough that you know what kind of features you need, what kind of integrations you need with some of your back office systems. And that's number 5, is your integrations. Does it integrate natively out of the box with your ERP, with your warehouse management system, with your point of sale? Are you going to have any marketing platforms like email marketing that you want to integrate with? Sometimes integrations are custom, and the integration, if there's not one that already exists, could cost just as much as the website. So you want to take that into consideration as well. Number 6 is it easy for you and your team to use? The ease of use of an e-commerce platform, it actually varies. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a few as well. But you're going to have bookkeepers, sales reps, customer service reps, catalog managers working within the interface of the e-commerce platform. So you don't want to buy something that's clunky or not very mature where they need to be calling tech support all the time. Which leads us into number 7. Does it have good tech support? Does the company, is it a SaaS platform where it's software as a service where the platform and hosting are paid together? If they have great tech support, you're going to need it. So they better have great tech support. Some of the mainstream options out there have a bigger support community, have more knowledge-based articles. Some of the smaller niche platforms out there, you're working directly with the company, directly with the developer, and sometimes they're not very attentive. Number 8, are the design capabilities up to snuff? Is it mobile friendly? Is it responsive? Is it something that's going to load well on other browsers? Is it something that you can customize? Some of these platforms out here, especially in the automotive industry, are a little older technology. They're just slapping your name and a logo on a template, and away you go. That might work well for a small local shop that just wants a little bit of an internet presence, but somebody that's wanting to engage in a nationwide e-commerce campaign, it's not going to fend very well for you. And then lastly, is it secure? There's a lot of platforms out there even today that do not have some security features or just basic security protocols, follow basic security protocols that Google and the market's demanding. So really, the number one criteria, back to search engine optimization, cannot stress enough that you want to get somebody that knows what they're doing, that's preferably in the industry, to give you an unbiased review of the platform. There's a lot of platforms out there. These are not any of them that are not very search engine friendly whatsoever, and that's not something you can overcome. You want to make sure that your platform at its core is crawlable, and that we have Sophio in the room. We want to make sure the platform is crawlable, and you can manage metadata and catalog data directly through the platform, and that you can handle like 301 redirects and some back-end features. And it's not something you need to email a tech support person for, and 301 redirects show up on your site a week later. So this might seem like a lot to cover, and it really is. You want to thoroughly evaluate your platform, because you're getting into a relationship with the platform. Your entire team's going to be using it, whether it's marketing or technology. And Brian will cover your team members here in a few, but you want to get something that's going to be suitable for you for at least the next few years. Really the next part we want to talk about is marketing. So you have this website, you've put a lot of time and energy into planning it out, building it. Whether you're migrating to a new domain name or just upgrading your website on a current domain name, you need to find out what to do with this thing. And we're going to start with email marketing. It's no surprise that we're all addicted to email, but email marketing is by far the most profitable and really efficient marketing channel you're going to have available. It's cheap. Email marketing platforms are fairly inexpensive, and the return on investment is on a personalized automated campaign is going to be the highest conversion rate on any other marketing platform or marketing channel that you work with. The personalized email that we're talking about here. So back in the old days, you would send an email out to, say, 5 people, and you would personalize it by saying, hey Bob, or hey Joe at the top. That's not what we're talking about with personalization. Email marketing platforms can tightly integrate with your website, and they keep track of how people interact with your site. They keep a profile on all of your customers, what kind of vehicle they have, what their purchase history is, what they look at on your site, what they've added to cart but haven't purchased yet, and you utilize email marketing to keep them engaged. However, there are rules that you need to follow on who you can and cannot email. So about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, the EU implemented GDPR, which is a Data Privacy Protection Act, which specifies you cannot email to somebody who hasn't given you their consent to email to them. California right now is working on an American version of that, so it's going to be coming to us sooner than later. But really the cornerstone of any email platform or email marketing campaign is your list. So to grow that list, there are a few best practices and a few not so good practices that we still see today. So how many people have seen the pop-up appear on a site as soon as you load the page, and you just go back immediately. It's a deterrent more so than anything. So those options don't work anymore. There are a lot of options. Once again, you need an email marketing platform that can provide this, and it's basic functionality in a lot of mainstream platforms, which is your landing page and your Wheel of Fortune. So does anybody know what the exit intent pop-up is? Think of this for a second. You're on a site, you scroll up, they're tracking your cursor movements. So you move your mouse up to the back button or the close button in the browser, and you get this little pop-up when they think you're going to exit the site. So it's a triggered pop-up. It's not just an instantaneous pop-up that appears as soon as you load a page. So as they recognize the cursor movements, you get a pop-up that's triggered that says, hey, before you go, do you want to sign up? Those are fairly popular and fairly successful. And the other one is a landing page, a custom landing page. So think like a Mustang enthusiast. They're on a forum. If you sponsor a forum and somebody clicks on your ad or your banner from a forum, your landing page needs to be specific and cater to what their interests are. Mustang content, products, popular products. Those dedicated landing pages that are specific to whatever the traffic source is or whatever the customer's interests are going to be or might be are going to be a lot more popular than just a generic catch-all, hey, sign up for 10% off. So when selecting an email platform, similar to an e-commerce platform, you want to make sure it integrates tightly with your e-commerce website. You want to make sure that it has the capability to track customer behavior, to track what they're purchasing. You can segment your audience and personalize your messages based off of what kind of vehicle they have, what they've purchased in the past. That way when you send a message, it's very personalized, and when they click, the images in the message are specific to the type of vehicle they have. And the products that they click on are ready to hit buy now or very close to ready to hit buy now. So when they go into the funnel from the email, they're not starting over, selecting their vehicle from scratch, because you know what they have. You might as well use it to personalize to them. And another great way to use email is to use what's in email for your other marketing channels. So email can really lead some of the efforts in your other marketing channels. It's on a very fast feedback loop. As soon as somebody clicks on an email, you know what they're engaging with, you know what kind of messaging works, you can test your subject lines, you can test the images, lifestyle images, product images in an email, and use that data that you gather to fuel PPC and SEO efforts, so you're not spinning your wheels on trying to get the right messaging. And that's really what we mean by a holistic marketing effort. You use data collected from other marketing channels that have maybe on a faster feedback loop or data that you're paying for, such as in pay-per-click, and using that to fuel other initiatives that might benefit from that data. So next we're going to talk about search engine marketing. Search engine marketing primarily here today is search engine optimization and pay-per-click. So SEO, or search engine optimization, is the practice of making sure your website is in top peak condition to beat out other competitors and free organic traffic on search engines. So think about as somebody is searching for a vehicle, an issue with their car. So 25% of searches are service or maintenance related, a maintenance related problem. So if their brakes squeal when braking on a Subaru Legacy, so maybe the content there would be more catered to where they're at in the buying funnel. And then pay-per-click is when you need to pay for traffic. So everybody knows, that there's options. Google, that's how Google makes $100 billion a year through PPC. And again, your site structure is important here. So just as your user experience, search engines are crawling your site. Google crawls your site obviously for SEO, to index your site for organic rankings, but also for pay-per-click. They use your site quality as a scoring mechanism to determine how much they charge you per click and where to rank you with competitors and things like that. So back to your user experience here, your site needs to be crawlable and accessible. Google needs to be able to index that and tell how your site navigation is, so they map out the user experience. Google's entire goal is to mimic customer behavior as closely as possible because they want to deliver a seamless, useful experience for their customers. So your site structure is important because Google uses that and matches that with how people use your site, how people engage with your site, how long they spend on your site, how much money they spend with you. They have all of that data. They're mashing that data together to determine who to rank for specific searches among your competitors. And that's why SEO is so foundational. SEO encompasses a lot of different metrics and a lot of different tactics. Several years ago, even when I started in the industry about 15 years ago, there was one guy, a webmaster or one SEO guy that would just sprinkle a little SEO over a site. And now it's grown into a very large field of a lot of different specialties. So your site performance, your site speed, how it loads on mobile, that involves designers. Brian will get into that in more detail as far as who does what. But Google is reviewing the entire customer experience. So all of these different aspects of how you manage your site go into search engine optimization. It's not just one guy or one team anymore. It needs to be an entire team of people, multiple teams of people orchestrated for one purpose. And that's, again, going back to a holistic element. You want your developers that are looking into site speed to know why they're doing it and what the end goal is. Paid ads, we're going to run through this pretty quickly. Paid ads is when you pay Google for traffic. So the primarily paid types of paid ads are search ads. Those are the text ads where you have ad copy, specific keywords that you target, and then you select what landing page you want to send users to that click on that ad. Shopping ads are those aren't, there's no ad copy for those. They're driven by a data export from your site, so it uses your product catalog, and you send that data to Google. And they're displayed with a thumbnail, a product name, a price, the name of your site, and then some sort of tagline, whether it's free shipping or your star rating, your site rating reviews. And then there's other types of ads such as remarketing. So remarketing ads are when someone comes to your site, visits your site, and then leaves, and you kind of stalk them with other ads. So as they visit other sites across the web, they may see some graphics or display ads that are relative to your business or relative specifically to pages that they visited or products that they visited on your site to reiterate the importance of coming back and create some brand recognition. And then also display ads, which are somewhat similar. Display ads are kind of the most traditional form of marketing that we have in digital marketing, the closest to traditional marketing that we have in digital marketing, because they're visual and they're paid typically on a per impression basis. That means the number of times the ad is displayed on a page, not the number of times it's clicked. But you can also charge, you can pay per click as well. And you'll notice a lot of times with display ads or graphics, there's a logo in there and there's some sort of call to action. And that's to encourage brand awareness. This is mostly a branding game at this point. So back to pay-per-click, there are different, you don't want to treat PPC like a quick win. There are different areas in the funnel that certain types of traffic are going to be more beneficial to the customer and also more profitable for you. So if somebody's searching, back to the brake example, if they're searching a problem, maybe you want to show them a video of how to solve that problem or how to isolate the problem. And then as you get further down in the funnel, you want to change your messaging a little bit based off of the types of searches that people are looking for. We all evolve our search criteria over time as we get closer down. So if that customer with the Subaru example starts searching for 2016 Subaru front brake pads, then you're going to start seeing more shopping campaigns and higher buyer intent in your ads, because that's a very specific search, and at that point somebody's looking to purchase something. And then really going back to what Scott had mentioned, there's a lot of content that you have available to give to the customers that they may not even be searching for directly. So back to remarketing and email, to bring it back around full circle, you need to focus on solving problems for your customers. Your content that you create, even your images, your videos, that needs to focus on solving problems, and then you present that to the customer whenever you think that it's necessary in their journey. So after they purchase a product, for example, if it's shipped to them and it's a DIYer, send them the installation guide or send them a video on, hey, you follow up with an email. Obviously, you have their email at that point, so you can send them some of that content and use email and search engine optimization as a way to distribute that content, as opposed to just nesting it under a details tab for jobbers to reference. Because, it's on your site. You need to add value to your customer. The whole point here is it's not SEO versus PPC in search engine marketing. You need to have a balance of both. You need to look at allocating your resources so that you have a profitable pay-per-click campaign and you're not going broke, but you're continuing to grow your SEO efforts. And going back to the email, data from email, helping to create a holistic marketing campaign. Same thing for PPC. PPC is on a faster feedback loop. You get a lot of data from Google on pay-per-click because you're paying for it. So Google's giving you search terms, keywords that people look for, what messaging in your ad performs better or worse than others. Use that data to fuel your SEO efforts. You can tell what people are searching for because you're paying for that. You're paying for that click, but you're getting that data. So use it as valuably as you can. The next thing we'll look at is marketplaces. So really, we've talked about building a website. But your website is really just one way to sell your products. As you know, there's distribution. We have a distribution problem when it comes to digital marketing. And Amazon, eBay, Walmart, marketplaces are really just another distribution channel. And Amazon being the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Amazon's getting ready to pass a new milestone this year. Over 50% of total e-commerce revenue is going to be generated on their platform. How many of you sell on Amazon now? So a few. Amazon isn't really a place that you want to dabble these days. It's a very specific platform. It's they use AASA data, but as far as their customer base, they have specific requirements for images. Amazon has the 360 images and other things available that you can't put on other platforms. And there's a whole strategy that goes around selling on marketplaces. There are businesses that specialize in Amazon SEO and Amazon PPC because they have their own internal search ads and their own internal sponsored listing campaigns that you can manage. They don't give you much data, though, which is why when you agree to sell on Amazon, you agree to dance with the devil. For mass distribution, you give up a lot of your rights. So Amazon's distributing your products to their audience and representing your brand and displaying your brand in a way that's more beneficial for them than for you sometimes. And they're also not unknown to cut you out and start private labeling their own products. Amazon private labels bike carriers and things now in the accessories aftermarket, and they're going to start doing it in hard parts sooner or later. So really the main thing with selling on Amazon, eBay, and marketplaces, it's an additional distribution channel, but don't just jump into it. There have been a lot of services out there, especially in the accessory side, that may not have been peddled to you guys as hard, like Channel Advisor, where you just sync your entire catalog from your website to Amazon and everything will be great. Well, some people paid for that service and got 0 sales. Other people paid for that service and lost money on sales because the pricing wasn't controlled. So it's all about control, and to maintain control in Amazon, you can't dabble in it. You have to have a strategy. You have to manage your data. If you're a manufacturer and someone else has provided data or descriptions or content to Amazon on behalf of your brand, you need to get in touch with them and set yourself as the data manager that's responsible for maintaining your brand, so you at least have control over that. But there's another option for us out here. There's an option to become your own marketplace and to add marketplace functionality to your site. It's still your website being the distribution channel, but a lot of manufacturers have when you get down to a product page, you have the option to click to buy here, and it sends you off to one of the distributors. Put in your zip code, and we'll tell you who has it in stock. The the functionality exists, and it's getting more and more popular for you to add that functionality to your site so you get the sale, and then that distribution takes place in the back end. So you get the customer data, you get the sale on your website, you still route it through whatever local retailer is close to the customer. The customer can have it shipped to them, or they can pick it up in store. That functionality still exists, but the sale's actually taking place on your site. So you get the customer data, then you can remarket to them via email, and your distributor still gets to fulfill the product or fulfill the order. And then that comes us back, brings us almost back around to back to data, but this is a different kind of data. So the beauty of digital marketing is you can track anything you want to, from cursor movements to your overall order revenue and customer demographics. So there's a common theme here, and that's that Google and Amazon, eBay, they're all making decisions on when to present your brand and when to present your site to customers based off of the data, based off of the numbers. And this can turn into a statistics game pretty quickly. It's just like football. When you hear statistics on specific quarterback and how many steps they take and how many seconds it takes them to throw the ball after the snap, and then how that compares to everybody else in the NBA or NFL. I had an NBA example too, I just crossed them up. Anyway, it turns into a statistics game very quickly. And you need somebody in your corner looking at that. You need to make sure that all of your platforms that you have, Google Analytics, Bing has their own analytics tool, your email platform, what data Amazon does allow you to have, all of that needs to be tracking correctly and reliably so that you can, and then they need to translate it for you so you can make good decisions off of your brand. And then all of that data also helps us do some testing for just continual optimization. There are a myriad of options out there for A/B testing, and you can A/B test on your website for your user experience. You can A/B test your email marketing campaigns, your pay-per-click campaigns. You can even A/B test certain pieces of content for SEO. And that's a test that really helps determine which is better. You present option A or option B to anonymous users, regardless of what traffic source they came to. And you use that data to make continual optimizations. Sometimes messaging works better than others during certain seasons or during certain events that happen throughout the year. And so continually testing different variations of things through your marketing and through your website is a great way of using analytics data to make some of those decisions for continuous improvement. So with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. Hopefully there are a few nuggets in here. It was a lot to cover. If you guys want any kind of more specific content, I'd encourage you to leave a comment in the survey. We can work on more specific hands-on content if that's something you guys need. So let us know.